Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to Embrace Education, where we explore joy, well-being, and the hard questions shaping today's schools. I'm Effie, and in today's episode, pulls back the curtain on a reality too many educators and students live with: burnout. We're joined by psychologist Agnes Mariakaki to explore why so many teachers suffer in silence, how emotional states ripple through classrooms, and what it would take to truly support well-being from the inside out. Before we dive in, I'd like to welcome Agnes. Thank you so much for finding the time in your busy schedule to be with us today.
I am delighted to be with you today, Effie, and you are always inspiring me. And I urge everyone who watches this podcast to go back and actually watch all the previous ones, and there's a lot of value to be gained.
Thank you so much for your nice words and the vote of confidence, Agnes. Before we dive in, I'd like to present Agnes to those few of you who do not happen to know her. Agnes is a psychologist and social researcher with a unique lens on communication and well-being. She has studied organizational psychology and is a trauma recovery expert. Many of us know her through her highly successful YouTube channel and Facebook community, where she's helped tens of thousands of people better understand body language, stress, and resilience. I do invite you to follow her because there is a lot of value to be gained, as she also already said. Agnes is also a seasoned trainer, among other things, of NLP, and I count myself very lucky to have her as my first trainer in NLP. And she is also a TEDx speaker and author of 2 inspiring books. Agnes brings both research and practical tools to the conversation, making her the perfect guest as we explore teacher burnout, denial, and the emotional ripple effect in the classroom. So without further ado, Agnes, let's dive in. First of all, to frame this conversation, what are you seeing now as it comes to teacher burnout as we speak? What's driving it beneath the surface?
That's an excellent question, Effie, to start with. And actually, it's not about burnout. The whole situation with teachers is much more a human sustainability challenge. And teachers are just one of the expressions of human sustainability challenges these days. And this is because we live in flux and everything is like moving sand. And we're living in a transitional period where everything changes. Everything, the way we think, we write, we work, we live, everything changes. And the way we replenish ourselves and renew and reinvent ourselves as we go, that's a huge challenge, never before seen in our species. But let's focus on teachers. Now, imagine that a teacher these days who is teaching a 6-year-old, a 10-year-old, a 16-year-old is teaching a completely different species these days with the tools of a past century. It's a challenge on its own because nobody discusses it, because the educational system at the moment cannot be reinvented as radically as the lives of young kids are changing through the different screens that they get accustomed to just as soon as they complete their first year of life. So the challenge is this: the student, the pupil, comes into class and they are already attuned to stimulation, which is multisensory, fast moving, exciting, entertaining, interactive, and actually visually ever more indulging and sensual. And they are in front of a teacher who is going to be there for the next 45 minutes. Their books do not move, do not speak, and they do not interact. And they have to discover how their body can operate beyond swiping a screen or moving a keyboard mouse. That's a big challenge for the teacher. And the thing is this, where I think the roots of burnout start. The thing is that a teaching job is one that operates with passion. So if the teacher is not really excited about the students and is not really passionate about waking up their curiosity and their interest to learn, it can be very tough and difficult. The thing is this, passion is very often fueled by reward, recognition, and actually seeing results, if you agree, because you are a seasoned teacher yourself. Um, so I believe that at this point in time, it's very hard for teachers to be rewarded by students who are responding readily to their keen efforts to make a difference. Of course, eventually, over the course of the school year, things change and students come together into a community and they start to respond. And by that time, the teacher is burnt out indeed. So I would like to ask you now, have you experienced this? Have you experienced this change in students, in the way they pay attention, in the way they follow your directions and guidelines as you teach?
As you said, thank you for the question back. Actually, it's very interesting to have this kind of dialogue. It's not just my experience; it's the experience of the teachers I train and I am with in communities. What happens is they, especially with teenagers, they cannot recognize the species they have in front of them. We cannot recognize, and it's very hard to connect emotionally to something which is completely unknown. This the phase of exponential change we're experiencing in life and in schools is something that upsets and unsettles every single teacher that I've met. Well, not every single teacher, but a lot of teachers I've met. And it takes a lot of flexibility for them to even think of going into the classroom in the same way they used to. So this is exactly what we're discussing here. What do you think it looks like? Because being disconnected is an issue by itself, and we know in psychology that it leads to burnout. So what do you think can be? What coping mechanisms can teachers use so that before they start breaking down?
Excellent.
To cope. What do you think?
Very good. Let me focus on two things. First, recognizing what is happening, and I will expound on this. Second thing is understand that it is not that. I would love to say something. I love to, as a therapist, I love to say it's not altogether your fault, because it's very often the case the teachers blame themselves. Am I lagging behind? Do I lack skills? Is everybody else doing better than me? There are three dimensions to your question, Effie. And the first one is to be able to recognize, to understand what is happening within you, because that makes you feel safe and makes you feel confident, even though you are experiencing exhaustion. That's the one thing. The second thing is to not let yourself go into self-doubt or self-blame. And the third thing is preventive measures, or as you said before, what can one do before they actually start to experience the claws of burnout? So let me start with recognizing. What we need to understand is that versus ever before, it takes more energy to stand in the classroom. And why so? Who is our competitor? Let's say 50 years ago, we had no competitors as teachers. It was only the radio, the transistor radio in the past. And we were, as teachers, we were much more exciting than the radio when kids went to classroom. But these days, our competition is vast. It's all sorts of screens, social media, gaming, anime, cartoons, all sorts of stimulation is much more exciting than one single teacher talking at the front of the classroom, and everything else is way more exciting than a book, which is a static physical object. So we need to just understand this. It's about the whole social transition that is happening, and we are the ones that are paying the price as our children evolve. So recognizing that when you go back home, I have felt this so many times, and your own kids are waiting, and your family is there, and you just have hardly any saliva left to share with them or to talk with them because it took so much of your energy to keep their interests and their attention. And there's no other way. It's when you have to compare with TikTok, for example. I mean, how else can you excite those students but by being a high energy person yourself, with your stories, with your expressiveness, with your hand movements, and with moving your body around and do it purposefully, which is already exhausting. So this is the one thing to understand. This is a reality that I have to take in stride, which I cannot change and which I need to do the best around. So the next thing is to not self-blame or self-doubt. Many times, when I have to be in front of teenagers, it's not often the case because I'm an adult trainer, but sometimes it happens. I'm invited in schools and so on, and I have to address teenagers, and I get very, I, it's almost devastating to not, that my tricks don't work, Effie. Has it ever happened to you? My tricks don't work. My stories don't work. And my jokes don't work. And it can be devastating. And
I've seen you with teenagers. You're amazing.
well,
Somehow you
thank
just,
you.
and I wanted, I wanted to thank you for bringing this up because it actually is what we as teachers need to do. So you get attuned to the audience and you do some magic there. I don't know what that magic is, but you might explain it here to us. You can see that there is no relation at first, and then somehow magically you get there. What is it that helps you get attuned to your audience, your teenage audience in this case?
Right.
I don't know.
First, I will explain this mechanism that you are describing. It's, of course, all due to mirror neurons that we both share, the teacher and the student, we both share. And these neurons are copycats, and they intuitively and effortlessly, we can figure what's happening in the other person. And if we go into that state of acceptance and desire to be present to the students' needs, their copycat neurons are able to seep in their sponges and they have incredible shit detectors also, and they understand everything, and they understand our intention. And when they do, if we also take a step forward, then this magic happens and we somehow meet along the way. So So,
So if I may
of
interrupt
course.
you for a moment, how do these mirror neurons and the neurology, our neurology that we're designed with, affect our students when we are not well, we are suffering from burnout or we're stressed out? Or does it also affect the other way around?
Of course, and they are sponges and they withdraw. They either withdraw
Mhm.
or you see aggressive behavior in the classroom
Oh,
because they get unsettled. Because the first prerogative of a teacher is to create an environment of safety in the classroom. And for me,
mhm,
not for me, I mean, if we follow the rules of the science of anthropology that happens in the first couple of moments when you enter the class. And it's nonverbal. It's absolutely nonverbal. So you enter the class, you face the students, you make eye contact with each one of the students right there on the first moment that you're there in the class, and you become an open embrace, like your podcast's title. You become the embrace. You open, stretch your hand so that they can, in their imagination and subconsciously, fit into your embrace. And they start to
mhm,
feel safe. It's okay to be here. I'm not judged by the teacher.
mhm,
I'm not criticized by the teacher. And they start to feel this belonging. And once you succeed and achieve a community where the students feel like they belong with each other and with you, then it's the safe place where a lot of things can happen. Not, of course, not pleasant all the time, because when somebody feels safe, that's also the time when they can be themselves, and themselves is not always pleasant, but it can be safe and you
mhm,
can handle it. Let me go back to your question about what people can do. So understand that it's not about doubting whether you are a good teacher or not. If you are
mhm,
a good student, you're a good teacher. And this is an absolute truth. So the way to be a good student is to understand that I am ever learning more about transmitting information, knowledge, wisdom to my students by learning from them how to do this job. So every single day you show up in the classroom, you actually learn from them how to be a teacher by figuring out what works and what does not work with them. And then coming to the last point, the third point about what works, how can you prevent the total exhaustion or the total
mhm,
burnout where you work, for me the signal of of burnout is, so that take it as a mini test, is when you wake up in the morning and you're tired and you feel tired and you think of going to school, and it's only, let's say you work for 4 or 5 hours. It's not like an 8 hour shift. Some people tell you it's not like an eight or 9 hour shift, but still you feel exhausted, and you go to school, and before you enter the class you're already exhausted, and there's a big ha inside your heart. So then you know that you have exhausted your intentions, you have exhausted your energy is exhausted, and your goodwill is exhausted. It's not about the physical effort, it's about the goodwill that you
mhm,
bear with you in class that becomes exhausted. So what do you do? What do
mhm,
you do? So the first thing, which I consider the emergency measure, so to speak, is creating for yourself mini recovery moments through your day, not just during school, but through the class break, but also throughout your day. And this can be,
mhm,
for example, it can be just listening to a song, some music with all of your heart, taking some time to take a very deep breath and just hug yourself and tell yourself, I'm okay. Doing my best today also is perfectly all right, and it's perfectly perfect. And a mini recovery moment is when you go back home and hug your loved ones with complete presence and let them and the sharing of love between you and your children, your mate, mom, let this love seep into yourselves and let that love consciously fulfill you and fill up your batteries again. There's a gazillion things that one can do to give themselves a conscious moment of recovery, I believe. Yeah, Effie, you are an expert in this, I know, because it's one of your own different expertises. I don't know, as an English teacher, does expertise have a plural?
I
I'm
don't
not
know.
sure. Kinds. Let's.
What I can tell you, what I can tell you is that I was an expert in burnout. I've been there. I've lived through it, and I know what it's like, and how important it is to give yourself time to recover. And that's why we have in Neuro Learning Power, we have what we call check-in moments during the day. I loved what you said because it's exactly what we discuss with teachers in the training of Neuro Learning Power. Check-in moments during the day where we one of the things is hugging, breathing. Another one, remembering to breathe, using anchors to remind us to breathe sometimes, and also self-compassionate talk.
Right.
Like the one you said, I am doing my best, and I am
And it
enough
is
for
my
right.
best is
Yes.
perfect. And
Yes.
the other thing is, another thing is becoming very good at taking care of myself. Very
Allowing
often,
myself
yeah,
to take care of
exactly,
myself.
of course. And we teachers go on other caring mode. Um, this is our profession, taking care of everybody else. And
Mhm.
people who become teachers, by their vast majority, have grown up to be, to be the good kid.
Carers.
Otherwise, carers, people pleasers. Otherwise, they wouldn't become teachers. They're all different other kinds of professions. So we have it in ourselves, to take care of others, to understand others, to sometimes even forget ourselves in order to be present for others at our own expense, not at our own detriment, of course, but keeping our in our own needs starving, so to speak. So therefore, learning how to take care of yourself is very important, and it takes discipline, commitment, and it takes a lot of getting out of one's comfort zone. And I do believe that setting boundaries, for example, to students, to parents, is something which takes us completely out of our comfort zone, indeed, because we believe that we just need to take care of everybody else. And setting boundaries, we understand as stepping back, withdrawing our care, which is exactly the opposite, because keeping our own boundaries makes others responsible. And this is part of what we need to be teaching to everyone else, not just our students, but our family members and our colleagues and so on and so forth.
As we
Absolutely.
call it, saying yes to saying no, right?
Of course.
So, Agnes, I was wondering whether this is actually the reason why teachers have such a hard time accepting that they need help, accepting that they're in burnout mode or entering burnout mode. What do you think?
I see. Well, I believe that teachers are actually the institutional helpers. It's part of who you are when you are a teacher. You are a helper and a carer. Therefore, I believe that teachers have the toughest time to let their vulnerability out. Anathema. This is bad. It makes you a bad teacher. No, it does not. It makes you only human, I believe. So therefore, being able to, as we said before, to recognize and to admit, yes, I have my bored moments, my tired moments, my angry moments. I have them. And as you know very well, from your studies in psychology, you know very well that when you acknowledge and when you understand your emotions, that's the best way that they find an outlet to go through you and out of you, so that they leave space for more constructive stuff in your life.
Exactly. It is actually the first step into then dealing with whatever is happening.
Right, exactly. So if I were to put together an emergency kit for teachers, and I will say a couple of things, and maybe you can add a couple of things. I would say, I mean, those 2 phone numbers you can call, who are your people, your team, the people you can call up and say, I just got you on the phone to say hi, to say here I am and hear you. Get this human contact together for yourself, just to feel beautiful. My emergency kit has my favorite music. It has some of my very favorite books I turn to. For many people, this is the Bible, for example. And my own emergency kit very much includes time alone, and especially time alone walking in nature, experiencing the wonders of what's out there, which I miss very much when I am in the four walls. And these are times of replenishment and renewal and rejuvenation. And maybe the final thing that I would say that I would include in my emergency kit is touching people I love, and being hugged and kissing them and hugging them and holding them. It reminds me that I belong to the human group in the best way possible. Perhaps I can add something. I call it my inner diary. All those moments that I find worth remembering out of my career as an educator. So, what are your items in that emergency kit for renewal and rejuvenation?
For number one is, as you said, actually we're now playing the embrace game without announcing it, actually.
Oh,
But
okay.
this is amazing. So we're so attuned that we're in each other's thoughts. 10 minutes in the sun in the morning. If I had to choose one, that's made a huge difference in my daily life. This is one. 10 minutes in the sun in the morning, actually walking or being active. It adds energy to the day, and inner energy to myself. And I love what you said about being out in nature as well. This is something we very often, it helps a lot. And in teacher communities, what we advocate and we actually practically do is we create peer support communities, Agnes. It's amazing what power, what resilience, what flexibility these communities add to teachers' lives. Thank you, Agnes. It's been amazing discussing, and there is no end to this discussion. Actually, I'd love to have you one more day to discuss, body language that we can use in the classroom to empower ourselves and our teachers. So, for the moment, a big thanks to Agnes Mariakaki for joining us today. She very insightfully put her finger on the fact that burnout isn't just a change situation we're experiencing as a species, and the emotional overload that it adds to teachers' lives. But the flip side is also powerful. When teachers show up with acceptance, self-compassion, openness, care, then the emotional states that's created spreads just as strongly as stress. So if you'd like to dive deeper into her insights, Agnes's insights, check out her YouTube channel, Talks on Body Language. And if you haven't already, read her books.
Thank you very much, Effie, for opening up the space for teachers to come together, to share. Thank you very much for being an inspiration through the way that you always dig out something constructive, useful, positive out of all those challenges that face as educators and teachers. Thank you.
Awesome.